What's happening YouTube? So I saw a video recently. Well, it's been a while since I seen it, but I thought I wanted to touch about it. It was Eddie Murphy talking about Boomerang, and he said that the critics were hating because it was black upward mobility. He said now if this was Boys in the Hood or something, they had no problem with it, and he was right because they were like, "Where's the white supervisor? Where's this? How could you be in a black world with all this is happening?" And that's one of the things about Boomerang, which did endure, which it was an underrated film, which it was a good film, because it was black, bumpy, middle class, upward mobility people that were in a film that displayed that. Whereas, and so often than not, whereas you always, when it's the hood films, people associate. See, that's how people get caught up in stereotypes and cliches about not thinking that you can't think outside the box, that you can't, assemble. He kept it 100 about it. He did it in a subtle but not so subtle way, but also in a way that, hey, you can thrive and that it can happen. It is important that the films like that are put in perspective because a lot of times some people say, well, he didn't do nothing, he didn't represent. Oh, he did represent. He did represent. He was, I'm not going to put his situation like Portier because I was being the first and being in there, but I will say this from a comedian perspective, to be a leading man in a white predominant world, to hold his own and to carry films like he did, especially with Beverly Hills Cop, when those actors were not seen in his vicinity. Unlike when he did Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Aykroyd carried weight, but to do The Golden Child where he was the main known commodity, pretty much for Coming to America. Think about it. A lot of his films, because and Nick Nolte had the name, but Nick Nolte didn't have the box office cachet as Eddie. But Eddie Murphy was able to carry that buddy, but for what he was doing. But when he put this in an all black concept and all different type of film, that took on a whole different trajectory. And he did work with uh, a who's who of talent back then. Martin Lawrence was in there, John Witherspoon, Halle Berry, Robin Givens, etc. And also Grace Jones and Eartha Kitt. All black cast. Think about that. And it says a lot about what he was doing with that because he wanted to break some of those glass ceilings and put it in perspective. And he told you, Jay Leno on Tonight Show, he said, this is why the critics have a problem. He said, they're not used to seeing all black, especially when you're upward mobile. They expect you to be who banging and who draw all that other stuff. They're not used to this. So he brought up a legit point, which is a fact. Because when you look at the films and you look at what they will put money to budget, it's always the most ghetto and the most downright situation. But when you have upward mobility and you're doing something of prosperity and you're on a level playing field, then it's like, oh, that's problematic. So I applaud that he's pointed that out, that he wanted that to be known, that this is what was up and this is how it was going down. That he wanted to let it be known that, hey, this is how it's got to be, because more often than not, it's never told that this is the way that it needs to be addressed, that the way it needs to be felt. So um it's something to take into consideration when and Eddie was definitely, Boomerang was an important film. Went to go see it at the theaters at that time, and with the soundtrack and everything. That was the first soundtrack on LaFace record, so that was a huge thing and it was a big one. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and takes about Eddie Murphy's comments about Boomerang and the upward mobility and how some people was tripping. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another shit. If you like, hit that membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out. Peace.